And those are 32 channel devices at 96K, plus the control going down the cable. All these connections are redundant. We also have on the rack a dedicated port for the ME. I don't know if you've seen the ME. It's a little controller which allows people to do their own personal mixing, 40 channels on Cat5. That's a 48K system, and that will plug in to a dedicated port on the rack built in. That will also take things like channel names. So if you name the instruments on the channel on the mixer, those will appear in people's ME stations, and so that comes up on the screen. There you can see a bigger picture of how that will work. So the surface to the mix rack is 300 lines of communication. Each expander is 32 inputs or outputs bidirectional through these ports where we can change the formats. Then we're going to look at things like apps and software, personal mixing and remote controllers. So it's just the starting point of a fantastic flexible mixing solution. That gives you 800 system inputs and outputs in the patch. That's quite a mixer, is that? It was important to, in thinking about dLive, to think about the interfaces. So we've now got, because we need to have 128 channels, we've now had to have a larger port. So these option ports are physically bigger than the old one because they have to do larger channels, there's more circuitry, and a higher sample rate capability working at 96K. So the 5 ports, 128 channels, each one independently assigned. You can decide what each port is doing, where the signals are going. They are backward compatible with our existing range of cards. For example, that Dante card you can see there. Of course, Dante is a 64-channel 48K system. So if you've got one of those cards, or you're using an iLive or a GLD with one of those in it, you can fit the same card in a dLive, connect them together with the Cat5 cable, and the system automatically converts to 48K at that socket. You don't need to change the sample rate of the mixer. The mixer will work at 96. Everything's done for you automatically, but you have a 64-way bridge on one socket, and you can use those now. So all the current range of cards, MADI, Ethersound, Ace, Waves, Dante, all working with the new system. Of course, yes, that's a good point. You can use these with third-party mixers. So like you can with GLD and iLive, with the dLive, you can also now connect up to a Yamaha. If it's using Dante, you can use a Soundcraft or Digico over coax MADI. So you can use these happily with other people's mixing solutions. Those are what the racks look like. Today we've got the DM64, which is the largest. They all do the same job. As you can see, all this part here is exactly the same on each rack. It's just the number, you're paying for the number of mic inputs or mic line inputs and XLR outputs in each system. So it's small, medium, and large. So that you have to have one of those to be part of the mixing system. But of course, you can grow that by adding on the expanders. Each one of those is 64 mix outputs inside, so all with full processing. So they've all got the same processing power, the 16 rack effects. So there's a close-up of that mixer. There's a new preamp design, which has a really interesting active pad circuit for mix transparency. Sometimes, I don't know if you know this, you get a signal sounding good and it's a little bit too hot. You put in a pad and make up the gain and it doesn't sound the same. That's because the way the impedance has changed to the source can affect the sound quality and the sort of presence of the thing in terms of audio. We've now done a very special active pad circuitry which compensates for that, and it's almost transparent, so you can use the pad without losing anything. So that's a new type of preamp. Obviously, we've got the dual redundant power supplies. The unit will ship with one power supply. You can buy a second power supply or keep one power supply available to put up as a backup in any of the other parts, or we can buy two. The thing in the middle here is the dual redundant GigaAce connection on Cat5 with the special locking connector. That's GigaAce. That's what connects the rack to the mixer. Then there are a couple of connections there, each one dual redundant. So that's one connection with the redundancy, and that's another one. These are for the expander racks to have additional inputs and outputs in different places. The Me port is there. That's also a locking Cat5 professional system, so you can connect up Me system straight away without having to use up Dante or anything else to connect up with. And then those are the 3 I/O ports where you can use different formats. So you can now start to think of this as a mixing engine with a fantastic digital patch bay, which can patch different formats. You can sit there at the desk or in your broadcast truck or in your studio or on your stage, and you can say, okay, I've got MADI lines 1 to 32 coming in, I've got Dante going out, I'm going to patch MADI into Dante, that guy over there, and blah, 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 blah. You've got an 800-way patch bay at your fingertips, not even having to go through the processing channels of the desk. It's an amazing tool, you know, and very, very cost-effective patching solution, very, very professional and comprehensive. Of course, network connections, there's 1 or 2 of those on there. Those will be used for things like our new range of remote controllers which are coming. And of course, anything to do with network control like network MIDI, iPads, Wi-Fi control, editors, those will use the network ports. So that's what those are there in the middle. And we also have word clock BNC in and out, and headphones, small and large sockets. The rack ears on the rack can be put on either end of the mixer, so you can have it mounted at the front or on the back, and there's nice cooling fans which run nice and slow. There's not one little fan whizzing away creating a lot of noise. There's big fans on there running nice and slow, keeping everything cool. The Surface doesn't have a fan at all. It's actually using a really special airflow system for all that thing, because all the processing is done in the racks. The Surface, we've been very careful to make sure that can be run completely silent, which is nice for theaters and nice for broadcast and trucks and stuff. So you can mount that how you want, and on the other side of the mixer you have like telltale indicators to show the status. 3 sides of the Surface. All the Surfaces have the same capability. In other words, they can all get to everything to mix. They all have the same inputs and outputs on the Surface. They have 26 soft keys now. Soft keys, you can set those up to be anything you want, like tap tempo, mute buttons, group buttons, MIDI controllers, bringing up mix, anything you want. Custom controls, which can be set in scenes. 26 of those. And 3 pages of assignable rotaries per screen. So you've got rotary color-coded controls around the screens which you can customize and work it whichever you want. So we'd like to think it's the fastest workflow in the industry. We watch people go up to this desk and they go, yeah, I can get it, I can press an input, I can see what's going on. They can start working. You don't have to go to school to learn how to use it. You don't need a 2-day training course how to operate a digital desk. It works very much like a Q mixer or a GLD mixer. If you've operated those mixers, you will be able to use the dLive. It has a recorder built in as well, stereo USB recording on WAV, because it's nice to be able to record the mix or a special matrix or an auxiliary to remember what you're doing. And we have designed the kind of mixer experience around the engineer. We have single screen or 2 screens, depending on what size mixer you get. But basically, even on the 1-screen mixer, you can choose left screen or right screen. Is shown, and you can connect up an external screen which can also do additional jobs. It's a capacitive touch screen. It's very, very responsive to things like gesture controls, like an iPad. You can swipe it, make things bigger, smaller. So it's a very tactile experience, and hopefully you should be able to come up and have a go. What we've done is we've wrapped the controls around the screen. Instead of doing it in a long line, which makes the mixer quite big, like we did on the dLive, we've kind of put the controls right around the screen, so the screen feels like it's part of the environment. The gain control is always there on the top left, and that part of the screen is also a gain control. Those things are dedicated. The EQ on the bottom is dedicated if we go across to mixer and select. You can see, as soon as we select a channel now, these things light up, and then we've got color-coded encoders ready to respond around the screen. That's your working area. So that's what we call the harmony controls. And we've retained this kind of one knob per function for the channel, the basics, the gain, the trim, high-pass filters, EQ, all those things always stay locked to the channel. They're there where you can always see them. They're not buried away in menus. You don't have to cycle through anything to get to the EQ. It's always there. There's also a special dedicated EQ window which allows you to see different types of EQ. This screen is connected to the mixer. We can show left screen or right screen. At the moment it's showing the left, which is generally the processing screen. You can see here, this is the dedicated EQ. So if we make some adjustments here, you can see that section of the EQ will show up. So we can adjust the gain, the frequency, the numbers come up. And then you can choose the different view. So if we press that view button, that shows a resultant graph of everything going on. So you can see the complete picture. And you can see there, if we bring up the big EQ, which is, of course, touch responsive, you can adjust that there. But you may not always have that screen up, the big EQ. So, if you're on a preamp and you're busy looking at the preamp, you can have the EQ is always there at the bottom, and you can choose the view. And there's a third view, which is the traditional sort of thing with the gain setting, the frequency, and the width. All this can be set from 20 to 20K. So you've got 3 different views of EQ always ready to work. So that's a kind of new way of working. You can customize which are available. Different parts of the screen area are customized for you, and you can adjust those. We've got a new view called Bank View. The Bank View allows you to see more than one channel. This is up here. This is a new type of view. And that's now got all the channels on a particular bank. At the moment, it's the left-hand bank. If we touch something here in the middle, it now jumps to the middle. If we go to an effect on this bank here, it'll bring up the effects. So each effect strip with its patching and everything assigned to it on this strip here. So as you move around the mixer doing different jobs, up comes the bank view. And with the bank view, you can actually touch parts of that, which is the same as selecting it. So this is a really cool thing. And you can also do stuff like this. Once the bank view is up and running, and you're working on something, so say we're working on the first channel, so we'll select the first channel, and we do something with the EQ, and you've set the EQ here, and we've got different pictures of the EQ, like we mentioned, whatever, different ways of seeing it, blah, blah. We've got a nice EQ, and we need that on other channels. We can quickly press copy. Up comes a clipboard. So we can take that one there, press that EQ. We've now copied that EQ. And if we need that EQ somewhere else, we can go to press paste, and we can now paste that EQ in on some different channels. So now we can see on those, if you tap it, it comes up as well. So we're now copy and pasting things around. Really easy way of working with the mixer. You get the whole view of different channels, which is great. You can see what's going on. So bank view is great. You can also copy paste. You can also reset, press reset down and reset an EQ or reset a compressor, reset the gain, all those sort of things. Nice and easy ways of finding a way around the mixer. So the bank view is an exciting new thing which we have on the desk. And if you pull it down, you can also now see the patching at the top where the inputs or the channels patched to. Yeah, so lots of nice, exciting new ways to work. And then probably the most exciting part is the configurable parts of the screen, which we call the widgets. Those are certain areas here are customizable. So that's the EQ. You can see how you can change different EQs. There's an area here which corresponds to these encoders, and these typically perhaps could follow the compressor channel. So if you, the compressor controls. So if we look at the overview of the channel and go to the compressor, then these controls here would do the typical threshold and depth of the actual the compressor there. But you can customize these. You can have one. You can press these buttons up here on the top and have 3 different types of modes, or you can actually just swipe the screen yourself with your finger. And these can be customized and do different jobs. So if we go to Setup, you press that. If you see a colored window, it allows you to press that. You set it up. You decide what that wants to be. You can drag those away, and then say you want to have in an effect send. You can drag it in there. Press Apply. Close. And now you can have it locked to a channel or locked to a particular effect, sorry. So now when you're working on something here, we've got the whole channel running, but we can also now control effect 1 and have basic controls for an effect engine there. So you can basically, this will change as well and respond as people work with it. You can, anywhere that has a setup area, you can customize it. On this screen here, you can set up things like metering. This is showing now the metering. You can see how it swipes. You can have 128 meters there, all running there. This is scenes. We can go through the scenes on this side. And these can be, again, all customized with the LEDs lighting up in the rotaries. So different parts of the screen. It's a very tactile environment, and we're very, very pleased with this because it means you can customize it to work with your workflow. Okay, on the back of the mixer, small, medium, and large, whichever size of surface, you have the same sort of facilities. You have 8 analog mic ins, 8 analog line outs for patching to your PA and other stuff, 2 digital ins, which can handle sample rate conversion, 32K up to 192. Which you can actually bypass if you want to do and use an external work lock. 3 digital stereo AES outs, so you can patch into your PA digital crossovers and even say 5.1. So that's 6 channels, so you could do a 5.1 mix. Always built into the surface, small, medium, and large, so they all have that. Then we have the connection for the gig arrays to connect to the rack, and 1 redundant DX link for our expander unit. And then, very important, 2 of those really cool I/O ports. So you can now have Dante for recording, MADI, whatever you want, at the surface where you need it, instead of being on the rack. Well, we've got 3 on the rack this time, but in the dLive system, we had 1 on the rack only. Now we have 2 on the surface, 3 on the rack. Plus network connections for connecting up Wi-Fi, network control, and also work lock as well. So. And then a VGA out, so we can connect up external screens and connect up USB to get our data and library files and that sort of thing, plus the redundant power supplies. So there's no compromise in choosing a smaller surface. You just have to be canny about the way you want to work. We can show you later on how you can adjust this and make a really good customized layer. Couple of extra points there. That's the little Me system. That's the digital 40-channel Cat5 personal controllers which are compatible with this. And that's the DX32. It's another rack. It has 4 slots. It's modular, so you choose if you want more input